Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribrajacharya Astatera Satishi Shimadis Divine Grace Boy Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribrajacharya Astatera Satishi Shimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anand Vaishnava Vrindi Ki ISKCON BBT founder Charja Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Charja Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Pramsi Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadaita Gadadhar Shvashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shama Veta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Gaura Nitai. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Krishna Premi. What are the names of your deities?
Well, we were expecting we will get them.
Wait a minute, say that again.
We were expecting that you will give them today.
Oh, today. Oh, okay. I have to see them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's easy. Gaur Natabar, Sri Nitai Gaur Natabar. Dancing. Look at them dancing. Oh my God, ready to fly off the altar.
Gurudev, could you please repeat the name again?
Mūsų tai nestringa. O, matai, jos visos juda.
Čia matyti,
Nitai
Gaura Nitai Deity.
Čia pasienė?
Gaura Nitai Deity. Gaura Nitai Deity.
Nata? Ai, nata žodis? Bara.
Nitai Bara.
Ai, bara, čia
Nitai Gaura.
bara tas pats, ne?
Shishi Nitai Gaura Natabara Ki.
Let's wait for Guru Maharaj to come back.
Tavo vardas nežinau. Svarbiausia išgirdau.
Good. All right. What about now? Are we better?
Yes, now it's good. We can hear you.
Okay. So what I was saying was I had taken my computer out yesterday, so I didn't have it connected properly. So now we should be okay. I hope. Or the neighbors are playing video games and it's slowing down the connection. Something like that. So when I look at the deities, I think of Lord Chaitanya dancing. And Gaur Nataraj comes to my mind, Nitai Gaur Nataraj. What do you think, Krishna Premi? Did you have any other ideas in your mind?
None. Did you?
No. Shri Nitai Gaur Nataraj Ki Jai. So, when you do kirtan at Krishna Premi's house, someone has to stand by the deities because they might jump off the altar to join the kirtan. They look like they're ready to jump off. So, you know, you have to have a security guard there by the altar to make sure they don't just jump. But actually, you could say actually they are in the kirtan anyway. So, Krishna Premi, what do you want me to do?
We were thinking maybe you could give a class kind of on the Gaura Nitai Deities and also the appropriate mood and maybe some leelas as well, whatever you feel.
Yeah. Well, I have a disciple in India who's not second initiated, and she's staying with another disciple who has Shalagram and Giriraj, and that other disciple was traveling, and she asked me, can I worship Shalagram and Giriraj? And I said, well, generally, you need to have second initiation because the mantras that you chant to do that puja are mantras you get at second initiation. So there may be some exceptions there. Some of you have started worshiping Shalagram or Giriraj before you got second initiation. And so she went to the head pujari and said, well, in Vrindavan, Radharani's merciful. And so if there's an emergency, a first initiate can do it. Like Gaurangi and her husband, they have Giriraj, right? So if your husband's sick, then maybe you can do it before you get second. She was already doing it. So he's going to get sick today, right? So you can do it. But generally you need the mantras to do it. And then of course, you know, there's a, big installation ceremony to install deities. And when you call Krishna to come into the deity, of course, with Giriraj, Shalagram, they're already there. But specifically with Gaura Nitai, because they're the incarnations of Kali Yuga, then when you call them to come, you just call with kirtan. And it's just like, this verse, it says that when Mother Yasoda chastises Krishna, makes him very happy. That's more pleasing to him than when the Brahmins are chanting, Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha. But Mother Yasoda says, come back here, you rascal. That Krishna likes that. So Gaura Nitai likes the sound of kirtan. So that's how they're installed. They're installed with kirtan. And then the best form of worship is with kirtan. So, and in fact, maybe you don't know this, and I don't mean to disturb anyone's mind, but Prabhupada said we really don't need Radha Krishna deities. It's a very high standard. We could just establish Gaura Nitai in every temple. I think Prabhupada was saying this in retrospect, because if we make offenses to Radha Krishna, then it's not good for them and it's not good for us. And the standards are very high. And sometimes it's difficult to maintain that worship. This devotee just inherited some Radha Krishna murtis about 5 feet high, and he's looking for a temple in South America to install them. And I talked to the GBC, and he said that, it's such a high standard, I don't even think there's a place where we have enough responsible devotees to do it. So this is a very high standard. But as we know, Gaura Nitai, it's very simple, even though you may externally be doing the same things. But in home worship, it's very simple. You just offer them some bhoga. You eat anyway, so you offer what you eat. And offer an arti maybe once a week. You bathe, dress. You can do it more often if you like. And they will take that. Did you know That one time Prabhupada said we should manufacture Gaura Nitai deities and we should sell them on Sankirtan. And he said, you keep these dolls in your house and they'll fulfill all your desires. Did you know that? Did you imagine going out on the street selling Gaura Nitai? Excuse me, sir. Just want to show you, these are deities of Gaura Nitai. If you put them in your house, all your desires will be fulfilled. Just put them in your house. So Gaura Nitai is so merciful. And the Prabhupada saying they could even just go in your house, the house of anybody, even people who aren't vegetarians, and not even being worshipped, and they would bless them. Is that amazing? So as we all know, Gaura Nitai has come to compensate for the lack of our own qualification, and the lack of our intelligence, and the lack of spiritual desire. Krishna Premi, the deities need to be horizontal. They're vertical now. I'll have to give a lecture like this. Can you turn your camera around? Yeah, or maybe you need turn your camera to the right horizontally. Like go like this. And then there will be horizontal. Now on my screen, yes, there you go. Okay, thank you. So Gaura Nitai, they come and they compensate for our disqualification. And they give us the holy name because we're not really qualified to chant other mantras. We become qualified later. Did you know if you get second initiation, but you don't live in the mode of goodness, you don't strictly follow the four principles, did you know that your second initiation mantras will not work? Did you know that? It's not like you just get the mantra and just chant it, but unless you're living purely, the mantra doesn't work. But that's different with the Hare Krishna mantra because none of us are living purely, right? So even though we're not living purely, we're given the mantra because Mahaprabhu doesn't require any initiation to chant Hare Krishna. But to chant Gayatri and other Pancharatriki mantras, you have to be initiated and you have to be qualified at least by being in the mode of goodness. So it's similar with the deity worship because you don't have to be a Brahmin to worship Gaura Nitai. Anybody can do it, which also makes it easier in the temple, right? If you just have Gaura Nitai, then any first initiated devotee can do it. Even technically speaking, any uninitiated devotee could do it, which is kind of amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So I remember traveling once to a temple. I've traveled to many temples. This was around 1975. I was inspiring devotees in book distribution at that time. So I'd go to different temples. And I remember one temple, they had Gaura Nitai, like 5 or 6 feet tall. And I remember the atmosphere in that temple was so sweet. You could feel that Gaura Nitai did not accept offenses. If you know what I'm saying, the atmosphere was very just relaxed and sweet, and that was Gaura Nitai's mood. But sometimes you go in a temple where they have Radha and Krishna, and they don't have enough pujaris, it's a very high standard. It can be a very tense atmosphere. So, as in the Gaura Nitai deities, what's interesting about them, when you worship them in your home, people always ask, what's the standard? Well, the standard is kind of like, Krishna likes to eat certain things and you have to offer certain things at Mangal Artik, at Bhoga Artik, at the Raj Bhog. There's certain preparations, You can't just go in and go, well, today, Krishna, for Raj Bhog, you're going to get pizza and pasta. And if you don't like it, we'll give you some ice cream. And that's about it. No, there's standard, dal, rice, chapatis, this, that, and the next thing, right? But when you worship Gaura Nitai at home, you know what the standard is for offering? And this is going to sound funny because it's going to sound like this is not our philosophy. The standard for offering is whatever you eat, you offer. So we're like, whatever you like, you offer to Gaura Nitai. Because let's say I had to offer them like sandesh and rasgulla, and I, became a vegan, or my doctor said, don't eat milk products, don't eat sugar. Like, I'll have piles of sandesh in my house. What am I going to do with it? So, of course, in a temple, it can be distributed. So we're eating what we eat. That's what we offer them. And what time do we wake them up in the morning? That depends on what time you wake up. That's a standard of home worship. Prabhu, I don't get up till 6 o'clock. I wake my deities up at 6:30. Could you imagine waking up deities in the temple at 6:30? I have a funny story. It's a side point, but I think you'll really like this story. It's a deity story. So the devotees, I forget why, but they changed the schedule. And they were waking Krishna up like 3:15 or 3:30, and Mangal Artik was at 3:45. Some reason I think they wanted to get out earlier on Sankirtan. But the deities were going to bed at the same time they normally go to bed, but they were waking them up earlier. And then Prabhupada came to that temple and he saw the deities. And does anybody know what Prabhupada said when he saw the deities? This is amazing. He said, Krishna looks tired. Is he getting enough? He doesn't look like he's getting enough sleep. Hare Krishna. Is that amazing? Like maybe someday we'll have that vision to see how the deities are feeling. And another time, Prabhupada was talking to the deities. Nobody knew he was talking to the deities, but there was one devotee next to him, and this devotee heard Prabhupada asking the deities two questions. Are the devotees taking care of you? Are they feeding you well? Maybe 3 questions. Are you happy? Like that. He was greeting the deities and asking these questions. But the interesting thing about it is after 10 seconds of silence, after Prabhupada asked the question, Prabhupada would say, oh, very good. And he'd go to the next deity. Are they taking care of you? Are they feeding? 10-second silence. Oh, very good. So, you hear these stories in Shastra, but actually this devotee saw Prabhupada doing that. And then when Prabhupada sat on his Vyasasan, he said, I can see you're taking care of the deities very nicely, but really he could have said, Krishna told me that you're taking care of him very nicely. And then we have the story of Sakshi Gopal. And this deity, this devotee was talking to this deity, and he said, you have to come and be a witness that a Brahmin made a certain promise to give his daughter to me, because now he's saying he didn't. And that means he would be lying in front of you, and I don't want him to suffer. And his son said, we will only give the daughter if the deity comes to this town and bears witness that, I think it was his father or brother or something said it. No, excuse me, it's his father, because he's giving his daughter. And the son, of course, thought, well, we've outsmarted him because the deity won't come. So then this Brahmin devotee is talking to the deity saying, this is a predicament. I don't want to see this Brahmin suffer. So I need you to come. And the deity said, okay, I will fulfill your desire. I will come. And the Brahmin said, how will you come? And the deity said, I will walk behind you. And he said, but you're made of marble. You weigh, whatever, 500 kgs or whatever. How can you walk? And deity said, well, right now I'm talking. So if I can talk to you, why can't I walk? And then the Brahmin thought, yeah, that's a good point. So Prabhupada, when he tells the story, he said the deity outsmarted him, by logic. If I can talk, I can walk. And then as you know the story, that he said, I will walk behind you and I will keep walking and I will follow you as long as you don't look back. If you look back, I will stop. And so somehow or by transcendental arrangement, Krishna was walking and his ankle bells were jingling. So the Brahmin knew, well, Krishna is behind me. But at some point, that I don't know why, maybe somebody knows. I don't remember. The ankle bells stopped jingling. So he thought, what happened? Where's the deity? Maybe, he's a mile behind. I don't hear the, or whatever. And he turned around and there the deity was. But that was it because he turned around. That was the promise. And so you have these stories of deities reciprocating with devotees. We have early in the days of ISKCON, I was told that one of the pujaris had a dream. It was in the winter, colder parts of America. And the deity said, there's a crack in the window and I'm freezing at night. This devotee, it's just a new devotee, not someone on the stage of Bhav that can speak to Krishna. And they went and checked and they looked in the window and there was like a hole or a crack or the window wasn't closing properly and this cold air was coming in, right? What the deity said. So, there are many, many, many stories of deities doing amazing things, speaking to devotees. We just had Nrsingadev's appearance day and there's so many stories of Nrsingadev. The most amazing deity story of Nrsingadev was, you may have heard the story, a pujari who, when he worshipped Nrsingadev, he was always very nervous. He didn't want to make any offenses. He was actually scared of Nrsingadev. And Nrsingadev didn't like that. So Nrsingadev did not come to this devotee in a dream. He actually came to this devotee's room and he climbed on his bed and woke this devotee up. When the devotee woke up, Nrsingadev was sitting on his bed. You could say, that's just a story. Maybe he was hallucinating or whatever. And Nrsingadev touched him. And there are marks on his shoulder that lasted for about a year. And he kind of went crazy in ecstasy. And Nrsingadev said, you don't have to be afraid when you worship me. And then he said, but one thing, when you wake me up in the morning, when you turn the lights on, there's a light that shines right in my face. Could you not turn that light on? Hare Krishna. Krishna's bothered by a light. Well, Krishna's taking this in a sense, human-like relationship, human-like form where he can relate with us. So maybe somebody should compile deity stories because you one after another would see these stories. And we, sometimes hard for us to believe these things. But if there are so many stories, many, many, many stories, after a while you start to believe. There was one lady, Padasevanam, and she was worshiping Lord Nrsingadev in a remote area in India. And she was bitten by a cobra. And apparently, if you don't get the poison out, within 20 minutes or something, you'll die. So this lady was very surrendered and she didn't want to do anything to save herself. So she went to the deity, said she had this special relationship with Lord Nrsingadev. She had a dream and Lord Nrsingadev told her, go to this place, I think it's in go to Ahovalam in India and worship this deity and worship me there because they weren't worshiping him, only worshiping him once a week. To go there and worship me. She had this dream and then she said, I'm going there. And everybody said, there's tigers in the jungle, this and that. You can't go there. She said, I'm going. Lord Nrsingadev told me. And she became such a saint that the whole city took care of her. They brought her everything she needed. They built a place for her. The government built a house. It was amazing. And then she gets bitten by a cobra. And she goes to Nrsingadev and Nrsingadev says, she says, what should I do? And Nrsingadev speaks to her and says, take some Charnamrita, put it on the cobra bite, and you'll be fine. She took some Charnamrita, poured it on the cobra bite, and she was healed. So there's so many amazing stories about deities. So if you live right near a temple or right next door to a temple, Prabhupada didn't recommend having deities because he said, well, all the puja you do, you can do for the deities in the temple. If you're not initiated, obviously you can't. He just didn't want it to intervene. So nowadays, we have very simple puja. Even my wife worships Giriraj and Shalagram, but the puja is very simple, half hour maximum. She was begging me to do the puja. I used to do the puja whenever she was off the altar, but somehow or other I stopped and she's like, you have to do the puja. So I did the puja this morning, and maximum half hour, 20 minutes, depends how fast your fingers move. My fingers don't move the way my head tells them to move, so it takes me a little longer. But even that worship, very simple, just doing achman, putting in a cup, and that substitutes for all the substances you would do in full deity worship of argam, padyam, and so forth. So, simplified in the home, and Gaura Nitai even more simple, and just wake them up, offer some boga, do arti, bathe and dress them at least once a week. So that's the idea. Now there's another story you may not, there's two other stories about deities, interesting. We have on our altar, we have a, what do they call it? Block printing? What do they call that? When you, a block, you carve a block and then you put it on, you stamp it on clothes, Hare Krishna, like that. Like the old way to make chatters, you take a block, I guess they call it block printing. You know what they call it? You guys are too young. It's just a little block, dip it in ink, put it in Hare Krishna, then the next one, and you can make like a chatter or a shirt. So somehow we got one of those with the Hare Krishna mantra. You can see it's a piece of wood that you would block print, and we put it on our altar. And I was told, I haven't seen personally, but I was told that in India, there are temples, and that's the only thing on the altar. It's just the Maha Mantra. It doesn't have to be a block print. It's just the Maha Mantra, and they worship the Maha Mantra. That's their deity. They do puja. And we did a japa retreat for the youth in Alachua. And one of the things we did at the beginning was we took out our beads and we did arti to our beads. So you can worship the holy name if you have deities, you can also put the holy name on your altar. Or you can put Bhagavatam on your altar, and those are your deities. So when devotees would travel, they'd say, Prabhupada, should we have deities? And he'd say, or they would tell him, I forget, Bhagavatam, which is Krishna, those are your deities. So traveling Sankirtan, your altar has a Bhagavatam. And that's your deity, you do puja. So the deities, and Prabhupada said the Bhagavatam was a deity, and he said, and if you distribute books, if you distribute Bhagavatam, if someone just touches it, they'll become purified because they're touching the deity. Nice, huh? Have you heard that before? Books are deities. You go on Sankirtan, you didn't distribute any books. How many people did you approach? 100. It's like 100 people touch Krishna. So there's no loss. It's 100 people saw Krishna. So then one last thing, which some of you may know because I've spoken about this, is that the idea of taking darshan of the deity, the idea is actually the deity is taking darshan of you. Because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and if Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, that means everything that exists is meant to be enjoyed by him. That means we're meant to be enjoyed by him as well, like everything. What is it? If you say someone's an enjoyer, okay, he enjoys everything in his house and so forth, and his friends. But if someone's the supreme enjoyer, that means they enjoy everything, or they're meant to enjoy everything and everybody. So Krishna is meant to enjoy us. We exist for his pleasure. So when we say I'm taking darshan, the actual understanding is the deities are taking darshan of you, and you're showing up in the mood of the deities like to see me. You may think, well, they don't like to see me. I'm not that pretty. No, it's not like that. The deities like to see you. Welcome. The deities like to see you. So when you take darshan, it's actually, they're taking darshan of you. Isn't that interesting? Wow. Is that the same dead drum we had yesterday? The broken drum is actually better. It sounds broken. They have this broken drum. These are the Krishna house devotees, some of them here. They have this broken drum. Pick it up. And it sounds better than this drum that's not broken. And I don't know why. Maybe we have to start breaking drums to get them to sound better. But it sounds really good. And then we had kirtan yesterday with the unbroken drum. It's like, oh, can somebody break this drum? It doesn't sound good. Anyway, I don't recommend breaking drums to get them to sound good, but the broken drum sounds better. You know why, possibly? Because when you break it, it gets loose. But because you have air conditioning on, the air is dry and it tightens up. So it actually, and if it were outside, it would sound horrible. But inside with air conditioning, it sounds good, possibly. And that drum that's good is too high because it's possible. My theory. Anyone wants to do a PhD on mridungas, that's my theory. You can test it out. Spend 5 years proving that theory. Okay, so no lecture on Gaura Nitai could be complete without understanding a little bit about the mercy. Have you ever heard this story? Prabhupada went to one temple in a place called Georgia. America has Georgia, Russia has Georgia, and a city called Atlanta. It's like the biggest city in the southeast of the US. And there, the main deities are Gaura Nitai. And Prabhupada, he chanted, I believe, Parama Karuna. Parama Karuna, supreme mercy, Bahu Dvijana, these two brothers, Nitai Gaur Chanda, completely choked up. Just Prabhupada was meditating on the mercy of Gaura Nitai. Because we're all there, all these young Americans dancing and chanting, and we're not really qualified to enter into this kind of rasa. And Prabhupada seeing us all dancing and chanting, there's Gaura Nitai. Prabhupada's emotions are just coming out, and he was just thinking. And he's thinking and talking about how merciful Gaura Nitai are. And he just like became ecstatic and choked up and stopped talking. That happened a few times. The beauty of this story is that we understand, because he was talking about Gaura Nitai and Gaura Nitai was there, he was being overwhelmed by what their mercy is. And this story is good because we should also be overwhelmed. And if we're not overwhelmed, we can think, what's wrong with me? I'm not overwhelmed by thinking about how merciful Gaura Nitai are. So how do we understand this? Maybe we could try to understand what Prabhupada was thinking based on what Shastra tells us, that we have absolutely zero qualification because we're coming, our backgrounds are mostly sinful, irreligious. And even if we're religious in many ways, we're irreligious. You know, here where I live, there's lots of forests. And I don't know if this goes on in your country, but there's lots of deer here. And when the deer see us, they run. They're so frightened. It may be their nature, but also they hunt deer around here. And our neighbor next door has 120 acres. I don't know if you think in acres, but it will take you like 10, 15 minutes to walk from one end of the land to the other, and about 6 football fields wide. That's like 120 acres. And you know why he has that land? He hasn't done anything with it. They go there to hunt. That's what they do. And I once heard this famous Christian personality. He's got radio shows, hundreds of radio shows in America. And I used to listen to these radio shows to kind of understand how they're spreading their word and communicating. And I heard something really, really horrible from him. And he's one of the most respected Christians. And I was just showing how the paradox of how people will be saved with no qualification whatsoever. So he was saying that he learned so much from his father when he would spend time with him, because when father and son are together, they talk, son asks questions, the father, speaks to him. He talks to him about life, about values, integrity, honesty, all these things, right? And he said, the times that I spent with my father that I learned most, or the times that we spent the most, is when we went hunting together. So you have deer in your country? And so you know how cute deer are. They're just like, they're really cute. You just want to go up and hug them, right? But you might get Lyme disease if you do, or ticks or something. I don't know. So probably not a good idea. But, well, that's Jad Bharat, you know, this little fawn. They're cute. And Jad Bharat fell for a fawn. They're so attractive. And I saw this morning 7 deer. And so they see you, they run away because they think you're going to shoot them. And I was thinking about Christians, and I was thinking about this area. There's so much hunting going on. We have a town of 7,000 people, and I've counted 23 churches in this town. And this is like hunting capital, part of America. Everybody goes out and hunts. And they're Christians. So this is where people are coming from. And we saw with Prabhupada that no matter what anybody did, no matter how fallen they were, how many drugs they took, how many girlfriends they had before they became devotees, no matter what they did, chant Hare Krishna. That was it. Just chant Hare Krishna. It was like, we are not going to deprive you. Chant Hare Krishna. In fact, in some of the original initiations in Russia, he didn't even ask them to follow the 4 principles because he wasn't sure he could do that. But he was willing to initiate them and give them the holy name because he knew if they chanted, they would follow the principles. Isn't that amazing? So, and then Lord Chaitanya is revealing what nobody, not in the last 8 billion years or so, revealed was this Braj Rasa, Vrindavan. It's kind of like secret, and it's not given. It's just everybody goes to Vaikuntha, worships Narayan in awe and reverence, and then Mahaprabhu comes and says, no, there's something better. There's Vrindavan, where Krishna is just playing according to your desire. He'll be your boyfriend, he'll be your son, he'll be your friend. You can serve him as a master. Whatever you want, he'll do that. That wasn't known. And even that idea today is rejected in some sampradayas as a lower stage. And that's why Brahma didn't know. Like he comes to, who is this Krishna? You know? So Prabhupada's meditating on all this. It's so amazing that people who really have no qualification even to go to Vaikuntha, what to speak of to go to Braj, Mahaprabhu comes and says, well, we're gonna take you to Braj. Wow. And what do I have to do? How do I qualify? How many credits do I need? 0. Just chant. Well, don't I have to get initiated? No, you don't. Just chant. Well, don't I have to shave my head? No. Don't I have to wear a dhoti? No. Don't I have to give up meat? No. What about marijuana, LSD, peyote, ayahuasca, beer, vodka? No, you don't have to give up any, just chant. You take ayahuasca in Lithuania, it's a big thing, this part of the world. Don't get any ideas. Prabhupada said, he said to all the people taking LSD, they said, what about LSD? He said, no, it's something material. Your spiritual life's already there. You don't need something material to find it. I go, but we have spiritual experiences. We feel bliss, ecstasy. And Prabhupada said, he said, imagine a room full of LSD, filled to the top. He said, that's hard. That's Krishna consciousness. It's like a room of it. You think LSD is good? It's like a room full of LSD. Hare Krishna. Yeah, if you took a room full of LSD, you'd be experiencing a lot of ecstasy. Like you would become so ecstatic, you would end up in a mental hospital for sure. Yeah. So, but Prabhupada's, like whatever, you take LSD, whatever, this is better, but whatever, you just chant. It doesn't matter. So that's Mahaprabhu's mood. And then, could you imagine Prabhupada, then he comes to America And there's all these hippies, this is what they do. Drugs, sex, rock and roll, all I need to kill my soul. That was kind of the motto. So, it was pretty bad then. We were talking yesterday. Yeah, yesterday in class. It's like, what is worse, people now or people then? And I say now they were more degraded. Then they were more degraded. Now young people have more psychological problems because the family is when our generation, there's more stability in the family, but we were more degraded because it's like our mission was to do exactly the opposite of what our parents did. More drugs, more sex, the better. It's not like that now. Now there's more psychological problems because of unstable families. But so the point was, in that environment, very, very degraded. So Prabhupada's representing Mahaprabhu's mercy. It's like, whatever you do, it doesn't matter. Just chant. I've told this story, two stories I will tell to show how Prabhupada he was totally synced with Mahaprabhu's mercy. So one story was this godbrother we had who had taken a lot of LSD, and we have this word in English, spaced out. And that word came from those days because when people would take LSD, they would stare out into space. They would just stare. And we say, oh, so-and-so is spacing out. They weren't there at all. They were, seeing things and, they weren't really so much aware of their surroundings. So he's spacing out. And then that became a word. So nowadays, if you're supposed to do something and staring out the window, you go, Prabhu, stop spacing out, So that's where it came from. So this devotee, he was like the spaced out avatar, because it took him all day to chant his rounds. He was so spaced out, he would just, you talk about ADHD, he was like ADHD on steroids 10 times over. He's like, Hare Krishna. You get through one mantra and space out. 2 mantras, look this way, space out for a minute. 2 mantras, look this way, space out for 20 seconds. Took him the whole day. He had no service because it took him all day to chant. And so the temple president said to Prabhupada, what should we do? Can we allow him to live here? And Prabhupada said, yes. I'm not saying we would do this today, but that was 1969. It's a very small movement. And Prabhupada said, yes, just let him live here. And then by him staying there and chanting, gradually he came down and became normal, more or less, as normal as you can be after having that much LSD. I don't think you'll ever be exactly normal again, but he was able to chant. So Prabhupada let him stay, even though he did no service, because Mahaprabhu is merciful to everyone. We want to give them mercy. Another story, this is a little funny story from the history of ISKCON. It shows you how crazy we were as young devotees. There were lots and lots of brahmacharis in the time Prabhupada was here. And they were mostly all distributing books, and they were fired up. They were so fired up. If they saw a woman, they would burn her with their glance. That's how fired up they were. Woman, out of my way, I'm coming through. I'm a brahmachari. Don't mess with me. You're lucky we even look at you and give you prasad. If it's up to me, you wouldn't be here. So, no exaggeration, actually. So the GBC passed a resolution that all the single women should move to Australia. I don't know if you know anything about Australia, but that's where the Brits put all the criminals. That was did you know that? That's where all the criminals, that was like the island for criminals. We have an island in America. It's no longer a prison, but it used to be. So you can't escape because you're just in the middle of the island in the ocean. So I want to send them all to Australia, because if all the women go to Australia, then the rough, tough, sense-controlled brahmacharis don't have to see any women, which will certainly make their life easier. Of course, What they didn't know, if there were no women devotees, they would be visiting prostitutes for sure, guaranteed. And they would be marrying non-devotee women because you can't restrain men like that. But they weren't thinking clearly, as you can tell. So they actually brought that resolution to Prabhupada. We want to send all the women to Australia. Yeah. Can you believe it? Like, you can't believe it, right? You think I'm making it up, right? I'm not making it up. It's true. Hare Krishna. This is a true story. So, Prabhupada didn't like that, as you can imagine, right? Another resolution, that all the women living in the temple who have children, they have to move out, that we can no longer support them. Resolution came to Prabhupada. Every resolution that Prabhupada would come, he would shake his head. Like, if you shake your head like that in India, that means yes. They read the resolution of Prabhupada, just like that, the next resolution. Then they read the resolution, all women, single women living in temples with children will no longer be able to live there. And Prabhupada just made a And then fortunately, one of the GBC said, so Prabhupada will cancel that resolution. Like, he knew Prabhupada didn't like it. And then Prabhupada said, I just want to give everyone a chance to practice Krishna consciousness. So he was willing, you come, single woman, you have a kid, your husband leaves you, you want to live in the temple. Sorry, we don't have any place for you. Prabhupada wanted to make a place somehow or other. It's not that every temple can do that, but that's what he wanted. Then there was another story, and some of you may have heard this because I've told it, and it's such a classic story. I could never tell this story enough and get tired of it, because I think this story is kind of like the icing on the cake of all these stories of Prabhupada's mercy, who Prabhupada is channeling the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And the whole point of me telling these stories was just to show how merciful Mahaprabhu is to us, just because we're installing Sri Nitai Gaura Nataraj in Lithuania. Hare Krishna. So when I was coming to the temple, I was 19 as a student. And there was an older man coming. He must have been 24. So if you're 19, 24 is kind of older, right? How old are you?
I'm an old woman.
How old?
I turned 29 yesterday.
She's 29. Like, when we were hippies, once you turned 30, we wouldn't talk to you because you were too old. It's like don't trust anybody. So we have an old woman here, 29. Have anybody like 30 yet? No. 27? 23. So, So for you, so I'm 19, he was like 24, 25, so 6 years, right? So 23, 29, 30, that's kind of old, right? And Nandarani's 18, so like 25 is kind of old, right? Generally, at least in those days, you didn't have any friends that were more than a year or two older than you. So he was like 24, 25. And so we were both coming to the temple. During the week, we would hang out at the temple, so I would see him there. And he was getting into it. So I was just a student. I come to the temple, I wasn't wearing a dhoti. Dhoti, not a dhoti, dhoti, kurta, dhoti, kurta. I wasn't wearing a dhoti or kurta or shari or kantamala. Nothing, mix. And he came dressed in saffron. He was coming to the temple like, wow, this is pretty serious, getting inspired. He's getting serious, So we would hang out at the temple. We'd talk to devotees. We'd read, spend a few hours there, go home, come back every few days, just hang out. There's always devotees hanging out. And the temple was 1 block from the university. And that's where I went to school. So it's kind of natural to hang out there. And one day I go there and he comes. But this day he wasn't wearing a dhoti and kurta. Actually, in those days, we didn't have kurtas. We just, I don't know what we wore, t-shirts, I think. Dhoti t-shirt. So he wasn't wearing dhoti, he wasn't wearing kurta, he was wearing shari. And he was chanting like this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Like, whoa. Now, this was in the city of Berkeley. If you want to study a little bit about America and American history, they called it Berserkly. Berserk in English means crazy. It was probably the most liberal and craziest place in the 3 planetary systems. Berkeley. That's why people like to be there, because it was crazy. And I went to school there, and I had a professor, the first day of class, he said, it was philosophy class, he said, you don't have to come to class because I don't know anything. I was like, that's Berkeley. That's the school I want to go to. He said, just write a term paper on anything you want, give yourself a grade and turn it in. That's Berkeley. So, you like that school? You want to take classes in that school? That sounds good, right? So, that was kind of strange, but it was Berkeley. So it's like, it's like we're nice to him and everything. And the temple, and temple president wrote to Prabhupada, he wrote to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said something amazing. And this is important for 2 reasons. The first reason, because we're talking about the mercy of Mahaprabhu, but there's a deeper reason also. And Prabhupada said, you should decide, and this is very relevant now. It's just like totally relevant. This is 1969, right? How many we're talking 53 years ago, 52 years ago, 52 and a half or so. This was like October, 52 and a half years ago. And Prabhupada said, you should decide if you're a man or if you're a woman. Because what was happening was 2 days later, after wearing shadi, he would come back in dhoti kurta. So, it was kind of crazy for us that he went in sari, but more crazy that he was coming back in dhoti kurta. 3 days later, shadi, Hare Krishna, Krishna. 2 days later, dhoti kurta, Haribol, Prabhu, Nitai Gauranga. 3 days later, shadi, Hare Krishna, Krishna. So it's like, okay, this is not good. So that was told to Prabhupada that he was doing that. And Prabhupada said, it's not good that you're changing. You should decide. Prabhupada said, this changing business is not good. So instead of Prabhupada saying, something's wrong with you and you're an embarrassment to ISKCON if you're, walking around a man in a sari and people think we're all crazy and they already think we're crazy enough. And, if you're not just going to be a man, then we don't want to see your ugly face again. No, that might be something we would say. Well, if you're from New York, you would definitely say that, right? So Prabhupada writes him and says, this changing business is not good. So just decide, you want to be a man or a woman. Interesting, right? Isn't it? Because nowadays, this is going on a lot, right? Some people are men in the morning and they're women in the evening, right? Because that's how they feel, It's like, well, okay. All right, so you feel like you're a man, but you feel like a woman today. So we have to figure that out so we can call you she. But, I'm only 16, but I feel like I'm 21. Will you sell me cigarettes and alcohol? I don't think so. I mean, I'm a man, but I feel like a woman. Can I go in the women's bathroom? So it has, I don't know. I'm 21, but I feel like I'm 65. Do I get a senior discount? It's just, it's like, it's problematic, right? I'm not initiated, but I feel like I'm a Brahmin. Can I worship Shalagram? Right, well, yeah. So there are limits there. So Prabhupada, he wants to encourage everybody. Like, he doesn't want to discourage anybody. So he's willing to, this was way before gender fluidity was, talked about or out of the closet. And Prabhupada's so liberal. Okay, just decide what you want, but don't keep going back and forth. Wow, he would accept anybody. But here's another point, which is so powerful. I made this point at the Vyas Puja, I think the first one or second one, I don't remember. Material stability. Prabhupada just, be stable. Whatever you are, be that and be stable. Because you need material stability to do your spiritual life. And if you don't have material stability, your spiritual life suffers. You can't do it. The devotees who are doing phenomenal service generally are the ones who are most stable, existentially in their lives, externally and internally. They have very stable lives, very good relationships with devotees, very good relationships with their spouse. They have enough money. Everything is like, it's stable. And then when you have that, you do amazing service. You just, like I can't inspire you if you've got an unstable situation, because that'll just keep being a problem. But when you have a stable situation, then if I inspire you, you'll go out and you'll do amazing service. Not just me inspire you, anyone. So that's the other point. So that, I think those are very good examples of Mahaprabhu's mercy. And that's, when Prabhupada was looking at Gaura Nitai, that's what he was thinking. Like these devotees here, like what other hope is there? But Mahaprabhu was willing to give him that hope. And when I chant my rounds, you know what I think? Often I think, there's nothing else I could do to enter Braj. But if I chant without offense, then whatever is needed internally for me to enter Braj, that mood, it will develop in me who have what samskars. You want to know the samskars I have? Just go check out all the bands of the 1960s. Those are my samskars. And all the popular drugs of the 60s, those are my samskars. And you can imagine, those are the samskars and the American culture at that time, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. You have Mickey Mouse in Lithuania, Disneyland, Donald Duck, and all the nursery rhymes, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and all that, And those are our samskars. So we are 100%, we have 100% zero samskars for entering Braj, right? And when I chant, I think, even though I'm totally disqualified, if I can chant without offense, this mantra will qualify me and give me everything I need to enter Vrindavan. That is Mahaprabhu's mercy. That is the beauty of Gaura Nitai. So I pray that Sri Sri Gaur Nataraj will bless this home and bless everybody near this home. Bless everybody in this home. Bless Krishna Premi's family. Bless all the hundreds of children she'll have in the future, both by birth and by preaching. She will make children. I always found it was a lot easier to give birth to children by preaching, because raising kids is takes a lot of time. They're already raised. Their parents already raised them. Now you can raise them from there. It's a lot easier that way. So may Krishna Premi, you and your husband have many, many children, hundreds of children who will dance in front of Gaura Nitai and become pure devotees by their mercy. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. Okay, we have to cool these devotees down here, right? Cool you down. What do we do now?
Pasakė daug kartų. Gaura Nitai.
Nitai Gaura Nitai.
I'm asking, do we have any questions? Negalvoju, kad yra paklausti šiandienos ar šiaip smalsumas. Galit progą pasinaudoti. Just 1 second, Maharaj. Jo, rugsėjo mėnesį. Ateik, paklausk. Ishwar Madhava has a question.
Okay.
And another devotee, if you have time.
Hare Krishna. You mentioned in the class that those who are living next to the temple, that they shouldn't have deities. And
Too late now, huh?
Yeah.
Prabhupada's point was, if we have deities in the temple, we need everybody to worship them. So if you're doing 2 hours of puja in your house, if you're doing 15, 20 minutes of puja, it's different. But if you're doing 2 hours of puja and the deities in the temple are don't have enough pujaris, then that's a problem. I believe he said that in Mayapur, because they were asking, everybody has deities in their home. In the early days of ISKCON, their devotees didn't have deities in their home. It was quite rare. It became more popular. If you're not going to the temple a lot for whatever reason, distance or work or whatever, then naturally you want deities. For us, and I think for a lot of families, the deities were important when we had children because we wanted the children to have deities, and do the puja like that. So, but my wife does. We have Gaura Nitai, Shalagram, Giriraj, and 2 sets of Radha and Krishna that just kind of appeared. But, it's Radha Krishna in the home. It's not like we're worshiping them proper as you would worship in the temple. And so she does the puja in the morning, which is to just take water and offer each item, the 4 or 5 items, the mouthwash and so forth, just water. So that takes about 15 seconds, right? You chant the mantras, either Margam like that. And then she has eyes on the deities and a mouth and tilak, so she doesn't have to paint it. So it takes that off. And then rub oil on the deity, the shalagrams, and then bathe them, chanting my favorite song, Chintamani Pakarishadma Sukalpa Vriksha. So that bathing takes like another 15 seconds each deity. The oil is like a minute. And then you dry the deity off, and then she puts back the eyes, the tilak, and the mouth. And then puts them back on the altar, and the other deities just stay there. And then she makes a little bhoga offering. So between getting everything ready and doing the puja, it doesn't take that long. And then a little incense and flour. And then on Sunday, she does Mahapuja, like 6 hours. Bathes all the deities, dresses all. You can't talk to her on Sunday. If you see her, she might curse you. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. No, only kidding. But often she spends the whole day, you don't see her for like 4 or 5, 6 hours. But it's a meditation for her, and she's listening to lectures. And so, but she dresses deities at the temple twice a week. And if she didn't have deities at home, I don't think she would dress at the temple more than twice a week, because she has one of those bodies that doesn't do good when they get up early. Any of you have bodies like that? Get up early and the whole day you're like banging into walls and banging your toes and chairs and things because you're tired. Yeah, so I don't think she would do more than 2 days. And my daughter, when she was here, she was doing 1 or 2 days also. So you see what Prabhupada's saying, that it shouldn't get in the way of you. You have this elaborate puja, 3 hours every day at home. And then another problem that I've seen in many places, devotees get up in the morning, in their home, they have Mangal Arti. So then they have Tulsi Puja, and then they do their deity worship, and they chant like 3 rounds and go to work because the whole morning was puja. And nobody took a vow to do that much puja. Nobody took a vow to do any puja technically at initiation, but to chant 16 rounds. So you don't want the puja to minimize the number of rounds you can chant in the morning, as opposed to chanting them while you're driving to work or something. So is that okay? So you don't feel guilty anymore now? Or only just a little bit, right? Is your country a Catholic country?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then there's no way you don't feel guilty about everything, right? But for a small price, you can be relieved of your guilt. Just confess and pay a fine, right? Or chant so many mantras, but that's the basic idea. Is that all right?
Yes, thank you.
We're in Lithuania, in case you're wondering. Now, because you're Americans, we have some devotees here with us. They are all Americans except one is Nandarani, who's from Ukraine. So they just came, they didn't really know. So I told them, you're all from Lithuania, but I forgot that they're Americans because Americans have no idea where anything is in the world. It's like that's their first qualification. So now I have to give you a little history. Not too far from Ukraine. Americans kind of know where Russia is because Russia was supposed to blow us up for, in the 60s and 70s. So you kind of knew it was like on the other end of Europe. So if you go from Russia and you go down a little bit, so Lithuania used to be part of the Soviet Union. So in the southwestern part, is that correct? We say the southwestern part of the Soviet Union, but you can hear them talking, right? And they don't sound like Russians. When you say book distribution, you don't say book distribution. You don't say it like that, right? So it's not just like Russia, per se, but that's where it is. Hare Krishna. Always wanted to be an actor, but I became a devotee. So I would do all my acting out on Sankirtan, talking to people. It always worked. It always worked. Just compliment people. They'll love it. Okay. Yes. So now you know where Lithuania is, and it's right. And if you go east from Lithuania, no, if you go west from Lithuania, you end up in Poland. Correct? Okay, next question.
I have one question. Is it true that Srila Prabhupada recommended for Grihastras to have 2 kids?
Good. Only. Well, I only heard. I heard that he didn't recommend. He said, "Why get married if you don't have kids?" He said, "What's the point of getting married if you don't have kids?" I think it was Chanaka said, "Grihastha life without kids is like a desert." So not like if you're married and you don't have kids, we're going to lock you up or something. But there are Grihastha couples who are, they're just preaching like crazy and they don't have any kids. I think that's a more traditional idea. Like for us as Westerners, well, I want a partner. And the Easternite is, why you want a partner if you don't have kids? Why do it? And it's a different way of thinking. But when a devotee, I think who had 2 children, asked Prabhupada, can I have another? Should I or can I? And Prabhupada said 2 is enough. So I think Prabhupada was thinking more about how having lots of children may be difficult to do your sadhana like that. But we know many devotees we all have different capacities, and children are difficult. Our daughter was not easy. She was very fidgety, so raising her was hard. And my wife always said if she had a sibling, it would have been easier. They could play. So then if you have an older sibling, you can have more kids because they'll take care of the younger ones. But my understanding, the way I took it, although Prabhupada didn't explain it, was like, we're ultimately meant to become Vanapras. So, go through Grihastha life, have some kids, work your way through it, gradually become detached. It would be like saying you're 50 years old and saying, well, your husband's 50 and you're like 44. Yeah, maybe we should have another kid. It's like, well, you're kind of old. Maybe you should be thinking more like in the next 10 years how to retire. So that was kind of the idea. So you'll have to, I think it's a problem when we take Prabhupada's instruction and we have no idea what the context is. And so I have to guess a little. And I know I have many god sisters who have lots of kids, like 5. And they're doing fine and they're very renounced. And so if you come from a family with lots of kids, probably you're going to have a whole house full of kids and, still be happy and Krishna conscious and like that. I forgot to tell you another joke though, but this will relate because most of you speak English and Lithuanian. I don't think many of you speak Russian, but so if you speak 2 languages, you're called bilingual. And if you speak 3 languages, what are you called? Trilingual, correct? And if you speak 1 language, what are you called? American. So, because so many places I go around the world, English is important. So you speak your language plus English. But because we already speak English, like We don't think we need to speak anything else. Because we're better than everybody, right? Aren't we? They all agree. Yeah, of course, we're better than everybody. America. And one day America will just be like, I read a prediction economically in 50 years, China, India, America, Brazil. Those will be the top 4 economic powers in the future. So America is going to go in second place, which eventually will mean, or third place, eventually will mean maybe militarily, they'll also come down. So, we're riding high for a while, but maybe someday Lithuania. If nothing else, you produce a lot of good basketball players, right? The average height, like you go to Lithuania. If I go to Lithuania and I'm walking with the devotees, I get a neck ache because when I talk to them, they're all like 4 inches higher than me, right? Most of you are. Most of you are. You're all giants over there. The basketball capital of the universe. Everybody's tall. Even the women. Even Jasoda Mai, she thought I was taller than her. We measured it. She's taller than me, like an inch. So you guys are real giants. All right, anything else?
I think we don't have any more questions.
All right. So it's nice seeing you all. I have a plan. I don't know if it's Krishna's plan, but I've confirmed I'm going to Slovenia August 23rd to, I don't know, maybe 10 days. We're going to do a japa retreat there. And we're trying to make space for other devotees. If you want to come, we'll let you know. And then I would go to Poland after that. They have some festival there, 3-day festival in Poland. And then, guess what's right next to Poland? Yeah, so that would bring us up to like September 7th, 8th, or 9th. I just wrote Sankirtan to see if that's okay, because then I could come to Lithuania and brainwash all of you, which is the only reason I would come there. No other reason. And spend maybe 5 days there or something. But Jasoda Mai, we have to do a concert. If I'm going to come all the way, we have to do some like concert, something. Even in a yoga studio, I don't know. It would just be like.
Are you saying that 5 days is too little?
What?
Are you saying that 5 days is too little?
All right, 5.5. So we can talk about it. Anyway, so you can think in those terms. That means it covers a weekend. I don't know if you want to do anything special on the weekend, or retreat or anything, or workshop, but it'll cover the weekend. So to my, I grew up by the ocean. You know that? And from the age of 13, you know what I did? Surfing all the time. Yeah. I saw a video of you. You were trying to surf. I didn't know they had waves out there. Yeah. Surfing is very addictive. It's like, and listen to this. Prabhupada would see the surfers, right? And he would watch them and he'd say, there's bliss. He'd watch them and he'd go, there's bliss there, but it's temporary. And then he would say the surfers will become fish. We heard that. I never heard him say it. But then I was sitting with Prabhupada in the garden in Krishna Range. I'm sitting there, it's like 1972. So this is like 2.5 years after I become a devotee, in the garden, in the city that I grew up, which were like 8 miles from all the beaches I surfed. And Prabhupada said, the surfers will become fish in their next lives. I was like, whoa, Prabhupada, you saved me from becoming a fish. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And it's true, because if you're really into surfing, you're always thinking of the ocean. You're always thinking of the waves. You always are thinking to get in the water. That's all you think about. And here, there's not such good waves in Florida, but when the good waves come, most of the surfers are construction workers. And all the construction stops. When they're looking at the ocean and the waves and the wind and the swells. And when the waves are good, nobody's going to build anything while the waves are good. It shuts down because everybody's thinking of the waves constantly if you surf. So it makes sense. Prabhupada said you become a fish because you're always thinking, I want to be in the ocean. And then you got this body, can't only stay in the ocean for a few hours. So just become a fish, become a dolphin. You can be surfing all day. And you don't even have to work or go to school. I mean, what a life, right? Hare Krishna. So nice to see all of you. If you're wondering why I tell so many jokes, there is a backstory behind it. I once, aside from the fact that that's just what I do, but it's somewhere in the Shastra it said, if you make devotees laugh, you make advancement. So that's how main way I make my advancement is to make devotees laugh. Yeah. So that's why I do it. And so if I tell a joke, even if you don't like it, just laugh, because when you laugh, I get your mercy that you laughed and I make advancement. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to Lithuania Nyatra, all glories to Sri Nitai Gaura Nitai. Ribo.